Hey, how you doing?
On this episode, we want to talk about our land here in Montana. We're currently sitting on 41 acres of land here in Montana that we purchased debt free. A lot of you guys have been asking us questions about why do you choose Montana and how do you buy land and how, what do you look for in land? So that's what this video is all about. So I'll let Reggie tell you why we chose Montana.
All right, we chose Montana for multiple reasons. One of the reasons, one of the top reasons, is just the beauty. Everywhere you go, you just see the majestic mountains, the snow peaks. So that was one of the top reasons, the beauty. I would say reason number two, there's not a lot of people here. The whole state of Montana has about 1 million people. We live in Palm Beach County, Florida, and just the county alone has about, 1.1 million people. So you look at Palm Beach County, Florida, 1.1 million. Then you got a whole state like Montana that has just that 1 million people. So that was one reason we also chose Montana. Those are my top two reasons. What are your reasons?
The other thing is taxes.
Yes, taxes. The property taxes here are cheap, especially when you buy land over 20 acres. You automatically get zoned for agricultural. And so just like on our 41 acres of land, the property taxes is only like $188 a year. That may change once we put a house on there, but I don't think it will go up that much. Like we're currently paying in West Palm Beach, we're paying close to $8,000 a year in property taxes.
Yeah, and one of the things you want to, when you get a lot of land, like 40, over 20 acres, a lot of times that land is zoned agricultural. So that's why you can get the lower tax rate. We have 41 acres here. The next thing we get a lot of questions about is how do you find land? So we're going to talk about how do you find land on this next question.
One of the ways we found land, and I say we, I would say my wife, she's the primary person doing the searching. She used apps like Zillow and Realtor.com, and she does, her searches through those apps, and then she will contact the realtor just to inquire about the property, see what type of covenants they have, if they have covenants. That's another thing you want to look for when you buy land. Try to buy land that doesn't have a lot of covenants or no covenants at all, because you don't want to be buying land and being told what you can do and what you can't do with the land. So that's another thing when you're looking for land, just looking at the covenants, requirements and stuff. And also make sure that you get, when you do go in that land searching process, make sure that you have a realtor that's familiar with the land buying process, because the land buying process is totally different from buying a house. There can be things when you buy land where the previous owners can have rights to any minerals that are found. So you want to look at that type of stuff, because you don't want to buy land and say one day you're digging in your yard and you strike oil, and then the previous owner can come back and say, hey, that oil is entitled to me. So you want to look at all of that stuff when you buy land.
Yeah, that really tied into our final thing we're going to talk about here is what type of things do you need to look for when you go to find land. You don't want to just find land in the paper and say, oh great, here's a bunch of acres, let me buy it. As Reggie just said, you need to find a realtor who not only understands residential houses, but if they're going to help you find land, they need to have experience. So don't feel bad about interviewing your realtor. I interviewed so many realtors before we chose our realtor. It's very important. And even then, we ended up having to do a lot of our own research, consulting with also land attorneys, attorneys that have experience with land. That's another valuable resource. So this final thing we want to talk about are some of the things that you want to be careful with and consider when you are looking for land.
I would say some of the key things you want to look for, seeing, if that land has any type of water on it. If you have land that has like a stream going through it, or you're close to a river, that can be very valuable if you're looking to kind of, be off the grid. Also, just looking at, especially in Montana, looking at the, I know they have the noxious weeds list and stuff like that. So you want to do your investigation just to kind of see, what type of pesticides have been sprayed on the land.
Exactly.
Anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, and also you want to look at you want to check out, talk to some of the neighbors and find out how far, if you don't have like a stream or a lake or something like that, or a natural spring coming out of the land, you're going to have to dig a well. So you want to look at how deep the neighbors had to dig down, because the deeper you dig, the more it's going to cost to dig a well. So that's another thing that you really want to look at. The other thing you want to look at is flooding. You want to make sure that when it rains, that there's a good drainage, that you don't end up with a piece of land that is going to be flooded. And as Reggie said, you want to make sure that there has not been pesticides. If you're planning on gardening and planting and things like that, well, has the land been sprayed with any type of pesticides? Because things like Tordon, it can take you 5 years before you can plant in that ground again. So those are things that you really, really want to look for. Utilities is another thing. It can cost you a lot of money to bring in utilities unless you're wanting to go off grid. Mm-hmm. You want to look at how far utilities are from where you're wanting to build your house, because the further you're out there, the more it's going to cost to put in utilities. So those are things to look at. Sun. If you're going to be off grid, you want to make sure you have good sun exposure. Some people prefer land like this that's open. Some people prefer half wooded, half open, so all of those things, taking those things in consideration. Also, you want to look at the road coming to your land. Is it going to be shared? The cost of, if it snows in that area, who's going to be responsible? Is the county going to plow that road? Or if the neighbors are going to come together to do that. And what Reggie said earlier about covenants, you want to be careful with covenants, because covenants can basically restrict you. Yeah. So you want to be careful with HOAs, homeowners associations, any type of covenants. For us, it's, we don't like any covenants, because that's kind of like another way that people can control you, even though it can help. You don't want your neighbors to turn their yard into a junkyard. So that's kind of what covenants, how covenants kind of protect you. So those are some of the things I would say you want to look at when you buy land. I think one last thing we would love to say about that is you got to think about, if you have a lot of land, how are you going to mow it? Mm-hmm. Because it can become a fire risk in the summertime. Mm-hmm. So are you going to have animals to graze it? Are you going to get a tractor and cut it? Those are things that you also want to look at, because that was something that we didn't really think about. Yeah. Was 41 acres is huge. Let me tell you, it is absolutely huge. Yeah. We just now finished walking in another section that we'd never walked in. So you really want to look at how are we going to mow that grass? And if there's a cattle rancher that lives near you or someone with horses, you may want to have them come in, but also check with your state to see what the grazing fees are, because you don't want a cattle rancher to come in and say, hey, I'll do this for you. They should pay you grazing fees. Mm-hmm. Unless you're just good friends and you want to help each other, that's a different story. Yeah. So that's our tips.
And also one last thing about one thing you want to look at is easements. Say for
easements,
example, yep. If you buy land, look at the easement, because you may buy a plot of land where there may be an easement for a person to drive through your land to get through their land, to their land. So you want to look at that type of stuff also. So just do your due diligence when you're buying land. Ask questions, in that period that you have to buy the land. You have like a 14-day period or 10-day period. Do your due diligence and do your homework. Get with your attorney, real estate agents, and just ask all the questions so that you can make sure that you're making the right investment.
Yeah, take your time. Don't be in a rush.
Yeah, don't be in a rush.
Pray about it. Don't ever jump and sign a contract until you've done all of your due diligence. You've studied and make sure that's the area that you want to live in. And
yeah, because like us, we've been looking at land for 3 years in Montana before we actually purchased land. So that just shows you the time that we took, the information that we learned, and before we pulled the trigger. And I think you should do the same also.
yes, and so for you guys that are wondering what we're going to do with 41 acres, our goal is to build a home here, as well as start to plant fruit trees, a garden. We are currently interviewing builders and working out our designs. But our goal is to start building here on the land here shortly. So we hope you guys will hang in here with us. Subscribe to our channel so you can follow our journey.
Yes.
All right. Be blessed.
Be blessed.